What's up guys, Brian O'Brien here, and if you are watching this video, it means you downloaded my Bob's Thanksgiving Cooking Guide. Now, thank you so much for downloading it first and foremost. What this video is intended for is to kind of walk you through the cooking guide. There were some sections that I really wanted to expand on some things, and so that's really what this video is intended for. So let's get into it, shall we? If you haven't already downloaded it, this cooking guide is available for free on my website, chefbrianobrien.com. We open with this beautiful cover, as I might say, and then just getting straight into it, straight into the table of contents, which should be very self-explanatory. The number next to the listing is the page. Pretty straightforward, right? Okay, and then the following page is the read before cooking page. Now, I actually do not enjoy reading anything in a cookbook before I start cooking the recipes. So I understand if you don't want to read it, I'm generally that guy. But specifically, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday to cook. And what I did is, every year I was going through my recipes and I was finding my cornbread recipe and then my cornbread stuffing recipe and my cranberry sauce recipe. And oh, how did I cook my turkey last year? And I had all of these recipes typed out, but just never in one place. So back in 2022, I decided to take all of my recipes, put them in one Word document, take all of the ingredients from all of those recipes and make one general shopping list, and it's just made things so much easier. So this year I decided I was going to share that with the world to hopefully help ease some of those Thanksgiving stresses that come up when cooking. So that's really what this read before cooking page is all about. So let's just kind of get into it. First of all, it says my prep begins with grocery shopping. I like to plan the entire week to make it as simple as possible for me to cook Thanksgiving without really having to buckle down for like 8 or 9 hours on Thanksgiving Day. I want my Thanksgiving to be as fun like everybody else. So getting as much done in advance so that there's as little to cook as possible on Thanksgiving Day is my method. It's the way I like to do things. I enjoy having a good cocktail, hanging out with friends and family on Thanksgiving. So the least amount of time that I could spend really focused on food that day, the better. That is my ideology. If you differ, that's fine. So my prep begins the Friday before Thanksgiving, going grocery shopping. Now, if you scroll along a little bit further, we'll get into the shopping list. And that's really what it's intended for. And the reason that I go grocery shopping on Friday is because my cooking begins on Saturday. Do something Saturday, Sunday, all leading up to Thanksgiving, a little bit a day, and then you don't have to go crazy on Thanksgiving Day. Now, the number 2 most important thing that I like to start talking about is the 2 main key ingredients of Thanksgiving. Most people would say, it's turkey, oh, it's turkey, it's turkey. That's incorrect. Turkey stock, homemade turkey stock, is the most valuable ingredient you can use on Thanksgiving. Obviously, you have to have a good turkey, but I actually use an entire turkey just to make my turkey stock, but that's just me. In fact, I just made some the other day for this Thanksgiving, and I made about 3 gallons. It's probably the best turkey stock I've ever made. Now, the key ingredient to the flavor inside that turkey stock, as well as every other pretty much item on the Thanksgiving menu, is sage. Not just sage, fresh sage. Now, I do end up using a little bit of dried sage, rubbed sage, if you will, in my dry rub for my turkey. But overall, fresh sage is the key. Yes, thyme is also important. I would say that's a number 2 ingredient. Salt also, by the way, is incredibly important. But sage and thyme together are the smell that is coming from your oven, coming from your kitchen on Thanksgiving Day. So don't skimp on the sage. The more the merrier, the fresher you can get, the better. Those are my 2 real highlights. Turkey stock, as good as you can make it, and I do have in here that I use turkey feet. That's just to give it a little bit more of a mouth feel. The gelatin in those, it's actually the collagen in the feet breaks down into gelatin, which helps kind of thicken the stock, and that is completely ideal. So those are the first two things. I start shopping Friday before Thanksgiving, and then turkey stock and fresh sage are the big keys flavor-wise. Now I lay out my timeline. Okay, my timeline works like this. As I mentioned, on Friday, the Friday before Thanksgiving, go grocery shopping. Now a big key here, remember you have limited fridge space. Everybody does, you know, me included. So you want to kind of organize the way that you're going to break down this meal by how much fridge space you have. Also, we'll talk about later, you may be cooking at a friend or family member's house, so they may have limited oven space for the day of Thanksgiving. So plan that ahead, because again, it's critically important that you know what is going to be cooking and when, in what order, and how much oven and fridge space that you have everywhere you go. So after grocery shopping on Friday, Saturday begins the cooking. Now, on Friday, after I get home from the grocery shopping, I don't put my turkey in the fridge. I keep it out overnight to thaw, because I need it thaw on Saturday so that I could spatchcock it or butterfly the turkey. That involves cutting out the backbone, and I use that backbone in the stock. There's a ton of flavor and collagen and all of the fun things that you want in a stock in the backbone, and so instead of just throwing it away, why not use it? So that's what I do. On Saturday, spatchcock and wet brine the turkey, okay? I'm going through a process of a wet brine and then a dry brine. Way complicated. You don't need to do both. We'll get into that a little bit more. But on Saturday, cut out the backbone, add the turkey to a dry brine, and then the cranberry sauce. Now also, I want to reiterate that turkey stock is the most important ingredient, and so that Saturday is generally when I make my turkey stock. I now have my backbone, and I can use it along with, you know, the turkey legs or what other turkey product that you're using. Remember, it's incredibly important to have both meat and bone. And I cook that on Saturday so that I can freeze it on Sunday, and then it's just ready to go for the week of Thanksgiving. Okay, so again, Saturday, spatchcock turkey, wet brine turkey, turkey stock. Also, if you're feeling frisky, cranberry sauce. I make cranberry sauce incredibly early. I already have my cranberry sauce made for this year. It saves incredibly well. We'll get into my recipe in a little bit, but it's something that you can just check off your checklist and then not have to worry about for the rest of the week. So again, Saturday, spatchcock turkey, wet brine turkey, cranberry sauce, and then turkey stock. Sunday. Now, I do a cornbread stuffing. We'll talk about my menu in a minute, but I like, as most know, you want your bread that you use for stuffing to be stale. So I make my cornbread on Sunday so that it can sit for a couple of days. In fact, I have this year's cornbread right here. This has been in the oven just for about a day and a half now. And oh, by the way, I also have some sourdough here that I have diced into, I don't know, a kind of a large dice to dry as well, and I've just kept them in the oven so that they're going to be nice and stale come Thanksgiving. So I will prep my cornbread and make my cornbread and save it for when it's time to then move forward with the stuffing. And then also on there, again, the other bread. I use sourdough, a 24-ounce loaf, but you can use any bread you want. Your favorite bread is preferred, and just getting it stale just helps it absorb the liquid, which is the key, is the turkey stock, and it creates a little bit more texture as well. Okay, so Monday, now we have had our turkey brining for 2 days, so it's time to take the turkey out and then do a dry brine. A dry brine is going to allow the turkey to kind of sit out uncovered in the refrigerator so that the skin dries out. You know, we've been absorbing a ton of liquid in from the wet brine that we did a couple of days ago. And we want that liquid to evaporate from the surface so that we can create a crispy skin. Crispy skin is very important in my turkey. So on on Monday, we take the turkey out of the dry brine, we rub it down with the dry rub, and then we have it dry in the open fridge until Thanksgiving Day. Tuesday is a relax day, right? You don't have much to do as far as prep work goes, but if you haven't done everything previously on my agenda to-do list, it's a catch-up day. You know, if you haven't made cranberry sauce yet, go ahead and do that, etc., etc. So Tuesday is a relax day. You're gonna need it because Wednesday there's actually only one dish, but then Thursday's hammer time, right? So let's get into Wednesday. Wednesday, one dish. Now I added a buttermilk ranch recipe because a lot of people like ranch, whether it's for dipping sauce, salad dressing, what have you. That's not good to make a cup like the weekend before, because if you've ever had good ranch in your refrigerator for too long, it starts to separate. So I like to just make it on Wednesday, the night before Thanksgiving, to give it a night to kind of marinate together, but not long enough to where the buttermilk starts to separate out. So that's Wednesday. And then Thursday, you cook turkey, you cook your stuffing, you cook your mashed potatoes and gravy, and then I also make mac and cheese that day as well, although you can do that the day before if you choose. Totally up to you. Things to keep in mind. Again, you have a limited fridge space, and if you're going to a family member's house, they will also have limited fridge space, so just keep that in mind. There's also, again, limited oven space. Both wherever you're going to cook, there's going to be limited oven space, most likely. Most kitchens don't have 2 full ovens. If you do, shout out, good for you. I don't yet have 2. I will in the future, but just note that more than likely you're going to have limited oven space. And another last little tidbit that I like to remind people, pick out what dishes you're going to use for the dishes. So like my stuffing, I use a 3-quart casserole dish. I'm going to set that specific casserole dish aside, and a lot of times I'll just put a Post-it note in it that says stuffing. And then I have a roasting pan for turkey. And then I have a nice bowl that I want to serve my cornbread or my cranberry sauce in, excuse me. So getting those organized, marking them and making sure they're clean. A lot of these dishes I only bust out on Thanksgiving. So like my gravy boat, literally only use it on Thanksgiving. So usually I will have to clean it before it's ready to go. So just think about these things ahead of time. What am I going to cook in? What am I going to serve in? Are they clean and ready to go? So that, again, Thanksgiving Day is as easy as possible. This next one's a big one. People may think it's controversial, but Thanksgiving is no time to experiment with dishes. If you show up to a Thanksgiving with potato salad that has raisins in it, you have done something wrong. If you bring a dish with a very experimental ingredient in it, you better be somebody who is a professional cook who knows how to do this. Otherwise, just stick to the basics. The basics are perfect. Don't change anything. You know, it's a crying shame when a specific dish at a family Thanksgiving is left alone because Aunt Susie decided she wanted to add, again, raisins to potato salad or something along those lines, right? So keep it basic. Tell your relatives the same thing. Tell your relatives, if you bring something odd, it's not going to get eaten. And I'm personally going to have to be the one that throws it away. So I'm just throwing that out there. And also, I guess the very last thing on this read before cooking page, I wrote this cookbook in one night. So there are definitely going to be errors everywhere. So just know that that means that AI didn't write it. This is all me. I typed everything out. I put it into this format and everything. So you will see errors. That's totally okay. I'm probably not going to change them once I put it out. So good for you if you found them. Land it in the comments section. All right. Now the shopping list. I think this is probably the most valuable aspect of this cooking guide because, excuse me, it lays out every ingredient you're going to need, and next to that ingredient, I list the dishes in which you will be using that ingredient. You know, you ever been standing in the produce section of a grocery store and you're standing right in front of the celery and you're like, do I need 2 or 3 stalks of celery? I don't really know. What do I need it for again? Well, this is exactly with that in mind. Now you know that you're going to need, where's celery? 2 pounds of celery because it's used in turkey stock, and cornbread stuffing. So you know you're not only going to need to use it for the stock, but you're also going to need to use it in the stuffing. So get enough for both, right? And that's exactly what this is intended for, and probably maybe the most useful aspect of this cooking guide in general. All right, now we've been alluding to it and you probably already know what it is, but here's the menu in which we are going to be cooking. We're going to do a roasted turkey and we're going to brine it two ways. First, we're going to wet brine it, as I mentioned before, and then a couple of days before, we're going to dry brine it to allow there to be a crispy skin. This is a spatchcock turkey or a butterflied turkey, so you cut out the backbone and flatten it out. That is going to be the main entree. Cornbread stuffing. Now I like to do two stuffings for my Thanksgiving. I always do my cornbread stuffing because it's definitely the most popular dish that I do on Thanksgiving, but I also am going to be doing a sourdough stuffing, and in fact I have both of those. Again, bread's drying in the oven as we speak. We're going to do a fresh cranberry sauce, which is a staple. You have to have it on every menu. We're going to do mashed potatoes and gravy. Mashed potatoes, I learned in culinary school, we call them whipped potatoes. If you have any lumps in them, that means that you just want lumps in them. I personally don't like lumps because it showcases how good you are at cooking, basically. So whipped potatoes and gravy, turkey gravy. Again, we're going to use the turkey stock as the base of that. So the better the stock, the better the gravy, etc., etc. We're going to do a quick macaroni and cheese and then a buttermilk ranch dressing, which again, you can use for dipping sauce or a salad dressing. Now we get into the turkey, the star of the show. As I mentioned previously, we're going to do a wet brine, which involves adding a lot of salt and a lot of different flavorings to water, bringing that to a simmer, adding it into a whatever receptacle you can that you will be brining your turkey in, adding ice to that because you do not want to add your turkey to a hot brine that will start cooking it and you're doing something wrong. You want your brine to be ice cold by the time you add your turkey to it. So that's what it comes down to. You're going to first spatchcock your turkey. You're going to add all of the wet brine ingredients to a sauce pot, stock pot, bring to a simmer, add to a receptacle, drop in all your ice, wait until it's ice cold, add your turkey and let it sit in there for 2 days. About 2 or 3 days before it's actually Thanksgiving, I'm going to take that turkey out of the brine, pat it as physically dry as possible, and then I'm going to cover it with a poultry rub. The dry rub in the cookbook here, that's what I use. In fact, I got it right here. I made it into I just added it to a little bottle, make it a little bit easier on me, and so that I can just go around the bird and get it rubbed down quickly. One thing to note on here with the dry rub, don't add too much salt because the drippings from that turkey are going to fall into the bottom of the pan when you roast it, and you're going to want to use that in your gravy. A lot of it is fond. That fond is flavor. It's a foundation of flavor. So you're going to want to use that. And if you have too much salt in the dry brine, it's going to make the drippings too salty, which will ruin your gravy. So just be cautious of how much salt you add to the dry brine. You should add plenty of salt in the wet brine, and that should actually get plenty of salt into the actual bird so that you don't need to add as much with the dry brine. Before you put the bird in the oven, definitely kind of brush off any excess salt that you see just laying around, because again, you don't want it to be too salted. The dry brine, or the wet brine, excuse me, should have added enough flavor that you don't need to add an over amount of salt. In fact, it's the dried sage in the dry brine is probably the only time that I use dried sage, although sage, again, is the key to Thanksgiving. Spatchcock turkey. Again, Friday before Thanksgiving, I take the frozen turkey, I leave it out to thaw so that Saturday I can spatchcock it and make stock. The Monday before Thanksgiving, again, I'll take it away from the dry brine or the wet brine, excuse me, and I'll put the dry brine on it to let it air out and get a crispy skin. And you can do this 2-3 days in advance. I would say at least dry brine for 2 days. You can wet brine for 3 days, dry brine for 2 days, however you want to do it, but definitely dry brine at the end, so that, because the crispy skin is really the result you're going to get. And I also wanted to note on here, you don't have to dry brine and wet brine. You don't have to brine it all if you don't want to. It's just an added way of adding flavor. You can choose to do just a wet brine. You could choose to do just the dry brine. Whatever you choose. It's totally up to you. This is just what I do, and so I thought I'd share it with the world. Turkey, step by step. It's a pretty straightforward roasting method. You're going to start hot and fast, and then you're going to crank it down and let it finish to temperature. Make sure you have a thermometer and you test both the white meat or the breast and the dark meat or the thighs, so that you know, the white meat 170 generally speaking, and dark meat 175. Really, it has to get over 165, but you want it further than that because you definitely don't want any pink, and there will be carryover cooking after you take it out of the oven. Also, be sure to rest your bird. If you don't rest your bird, you're going to let all of the juices of that bird flow out everywhere, and it's just going to dry up incredibly quickly. Let it rest 20 to 30 minutes before you start slicing it. And in that meantime, I like to put in my other macaroni and cheese stuffing into the oven to reheat for last minute service. All right, next dish is turkey stock. Now, what we're doing in this turkey stock is we're taking, I used a full turkey to make this year's turkey stock. I'm eating a full turkey, and I used a full turkey for my turkey stock. Call me crazy. I love making stock. It's my favorite thing to make. In this recipe, I use turkey legs. What's really important is you need to have bones and you need to have meat. Both are incredibly important to result in a flavorful stock. I roast that turkey. Oh, and I also use, again, the turkey bone, and most turkeys come with a neck in it. I use that, not giblets. I'm not a giblet gravy guy. If you are, awesome, that's great for you. Not a huge giblet guy. But if you want to add it, go for it. I also, you'll see on here, chicken feet. Not everybody has access to chicken feet. I do. I think it's pretty easy to get them. And again, it's going to result in a more nutritious and mouthful stock. You're going to want to do it. In fact, I used 2 pounds of chicken feet this year. I have 1 pound on here for 1 gallon. Now, I made 3 gallons, but whatever. Turkey stock is the key to Thanksgiving, because you use it in both stuffings, and it is the key to gravy, and you can use it in other things as well. Not a lot to talk about. Mise en place. You'll see mise en place in my recipes here. Mise en place is a French term we use in French cooking. It means everything in its place, and basically it means do this before the cooking starts. In culinary school, we had all of our dice, all of our prep, everything measured out before cooking begins. That's the best way of doing it, because then you can focus on what you're actually cooking and not having to go and grab a cup of sugar and grab buttermilk. It's already measured out, ready to go. That's the best way of cooking, and so I suggest it. Okay, moving on. Cornbread. This is a recipe I have no idea where I got. I've had it for years, and I'm sure I've made some changes to it a bit, but it is phenomenal. You can use this as just a regular cornbread. This is just a cornbread recipe. You can do cornbread muffin, whatever you want. This is a beautiful cornbread recipe. It's true, it's tested, I've used it a million times. We make cornbread to then make cornbread stuffing, which is the next page. Now, basically what I do is I make cornbread, I dry it out, which is what it's doing right now. I saute together celery, onions, and all of the herbs, just so they're cooked, add it to the bread, and toss in my stock with a couple of eggs. That's basically what it comes down to. Now, the stock, for me, my stock is so rich that I'm just going to season my stock until it tastes good to me. You shouldn't have a salty stock. Your stock should not have any salt in it whatsoever. So once you are ready to start preparing your stuffing, make sure you have a nice stock. You could even have it a little bit warm, maybe not too warm, because again, you're going to incorporate eggs, but taste it. And once you add enough salt that it tastes like soup, then it's perfectly seasoned. Then you can add in the eggs, and then you toss that all with the veg and the bread. Put it in a baking dish, bake it until it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I guess that's all I have to say about stuffing, but I can't hammer home enough. This is a phenomenal stuffing recipe. I use it every year. It's my favorite dish, and it's often my family members as well. The next page is cranberry sauce. It's very straightforward recipe. It's very easy. I don't know if you're adding 2 cinnamon sticks. I don't think I have in here, take cinnamon sticks out. Don't eat the cinnamon sticks. Just don't eat cinnamon sticks. You're not going to enjoy it. It's not going to be an appealing flavor. They generally won't break down. So once you're done cooking, in fact, I even let them steep overnight. I chilled my cranberry sauce in the pan overnight in my fridge, and I just left the celery or the cinnamon sticks in there. Took them out the next day before I put it into containers to reserve. Again, I like to do this well a few days ahead, if not a week before actual Thanksgiving. Next recipe is whipped mashed potatoes. Now, this is what I use for mashed potatoes, okay? This is a ricer. This is what I use anytime I make mashed potatoes. This is the product that I use, a ricer. There is no substitute. You could use a food mill. To me, it's a lot more work. This is super easy. After your potatoes are cooked, rice it through this, add butter and milk, season to taste, bang, bang, you're good to go. Then turkey gravy. Turkey gravy, again, turkey stock is the key to this dish. Make sure you have a turkey stock. You use the pan drippings if you can. I like to use a little bit of butter. In fact, when I made my turkey stock this year, I reserved the fat that came on top of it so that I can use it in my gravy. Whatever fat you want to start with that. Make a roux, a little bit of flour added to the fat. Make sure you cook out the flour, but not too much. The more you cook it out, the less of a thickening agent it will be. Add stock slowly but surely. Whisk out any lumps. And then once all of the stock has been incorporated, bring to a simmer and then cook down until the desired texture is reached. Nappe is technically the term where you can run your finger across a wooden spoon and that stays, I guess. Google it if you want. Gravy is incredibly important. One thing I like to leave it looser than I think I want it because it will thicken as it sits at the table. And definitely if you have leftover gravy, it'll basically turn solid overnight. So lean into it being a little bit looser off the stove. It will thicken as it cools. Mac and cheese, this is just a traditional macaroni and cheese method. I use a bechamel into a Mornay sauce, which is French. A bechamel is basically roux or flour and fat. Add milk, it's a bechamel. So you start flour and fat or butter, that's a roux. You add milk, it's a bechamel. You add cheese, it's a Mornay. That's basically what it comes down to. I will say on this one as well, leave your cheese, the Mornay sauce, looser than you think you want it. It will also thicken as it cools, and then the pasta noodles will also soak up a lot of it. So lean into it being more loose, but definitely don't hold back on the cheese. As I put in here, you can add 16 to 32 ounces for this recipe, depending on how much cheese you want. That's between 1 pound and 2 pounds of cheese. Do whatever you want. In fact, I have cheddar cheese here. Add whatever cheese you want. Any melting cheese is great. I like to use cheddar cheese as a base, but if you want to throw in some pepper jack or what have you, Gruyere, great options. And then the final recipe on this is buttermilk ranch. This is my normal buttermilk ranch recipe that I like to make all the time. It is a hit. It doesn't keep for longer than 4 or 5 days in the fridge before it starts to separate, but then you can just shake it up and it's fine. It's not going to hurt you by any means, but it definitely will throw off some of your relatives a couple of days after Thanksgiving if they are still visiting and they look at the ranch. So it's not going to kill you. Definitely probably don't eat it a week past you make it, or it could go bad. Probably won't, but just to be safe. But that is it. That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for downloading my Bob's Thanksgiving Cooking Guide. I hope you enjoy it. Share it with all your loved ones. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving and a wonderful holiday season. Thanks, guys. See you next time.